I was just lying alongside him in his hospital bed and me in a recliner, holding his hand. And I just was having a moment of real internal pain, as would be expected when someone is passing. And the reason was that he wasn't conscious anymore. He wasn't speaking. And so I was thinking how I know I've had my last conversation ever already with my dad. I can't have that back. You take all that love and light in your core with you and leave the old news behind. I know we will see each other again and I love you. And in that moment, I just felt at such peace. And I knew we were eternally bonded. And he passed away 12 hours later. But my experience, my initial experience, it's a two-part experience, didn't just end with that transcendent moment.
My guest today is Amber Kasic, who had a significant loss when her dad died after a 2-year illness. She was lucky enough to have a shared death experience. And after that, she spontaneously had the ability to be an evidential medium. And we are going to dive deep and talk about science and synchronicities. And I am so excited, Amber, to talk to you today. So, welcome.
Thank you. So happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
Of course. Do you know what the number one most popular video on my channel is?
I do not, and I was looking at them, but I don't know. Tell me.
It is the video I did about signs from my passed away loved ones. So I can already tell you that we are going to have a really, really cool conversation today.
Right. Well, I smiled when I listened to your video about your grandmother and the ring and painting.
Oh,
I
yeah.
watched that, and I've definitely had those moments too throughout my life, so I related. That's lovely.
Oh, I love it. Okay. Well, why don't you start with your life and your connection to your dad before he had his illness and he died?
Sure. Let's see. Very much just living normal life and doing the normal things and being a wife and a mom and having a full-time role as an educational consultant. I spent 15 years as a classroom teacher. And my dad and I, what's interesting, people often say, it seems like you had such a close relationship. And I would say yes and no. It's weird. I feel like on some level, we just got each other in an unspoken way. And looking back now, I know it's because we just probably have had a soul bond that transcends our physical time period right now in this body. But yet we were really different in a lot of ways. Sometimes I'd even say like oil and water. Definitely had years of conflict and even some really hard times and things that were just left unspoken and unsaid. And so his journey through cancer, and once we really had that terminal diagnosis, was also for me, in a way, a journey of the dying process, as well as it began just a self journey, maybe more of a soul journey of forgiveness and learning acceptance and growing a bigger picture of what love is really all about. And sometimes really tragic moments or hard things really put things in a greater perspective for you. So that's definitely a good way to sum up who my dad and I were before his passing.
Okay. I think that probably a lot of people watching can relate to that type of a relationship.
Yeah, sometimes complicated, right? Or often complicated. For
Yes, of
sure.
course, and especially parents and children for sure. Okay, so why don't you share with us in whatever way you want your shared death experience with your dad?
Sure. Well, as just about maybe 10 hours or so before he passed away, we were lucky enough to be able to have him under hospice care at home. And it was in the middle of the afternoon, and I was just lying alongside him in his hospital bed and me in a recliner, holding his hand. And I just was having a moment of real internal pain, as would be expected when someone is passing. And the reason was that he wasn't conscious anymore. He wasn't speaking. And so I was thinking how I know I've had my last conversation ever already with my dad, and that's
It
gone.
makes me want to cry.
Yeah, I can't have that back. And yet I also know I'm never going to see him in the next year with my son, his grandson. And so I was going through all these, there's all this loss scenario, and yet he's still here. And then I was also thinking about things that, again, have been left unsaid and left undone. And it was just a place of immense pain. And I say that because I think it's really important to understand that from that immense pain, all I could do, I don't even think it was a choice, to escape that is just become fully present in the moment. Because in the moment, he was still my dad. In the moment, he was still here. In the moment, I was still holding his warm hand. And in the moment, all that was left to focus on was unconditional love. Not conversations, none of that, just love. And so I became fully present and focused on that love. And in that moment of full presence, I had an experience that I would just describe as not of me at first. And that began with swirls of purple kind of happening in my mind's vision. And then I felt a warmth encompass me from head to toe. And I remember thinking, oh, the sun must just really be coming in the window and kind of playing tricks on me. Like, why am I seeing swirling purple? And why am I going warm from one part of my body to another? And then, though, with full clarity, I felt an energy like a whoosh enter my back. These are experiences and even vocabulary that I never used before in my life or had. And that energy that came into me, or how I experienced that, paused here at the center of my chest, what I would now call the heart center, and literally was doing slow swirls. So this is a completely illogical experience that makes no sense, but yet I was feeling it. And I also had no time to judge it. How could I even judge something that is so new? And so again, just in full presence, all I could do was be with what was happening. And as that energy was swirling, like on the inside of my body is how it felt, it slowly went to my shoulder, and there was a pause, and then it just slowly traveled down my arm and into my hand. And then I just knew. I knew it like knowing the sky is blue. That feeling, that energy, whatever that was, went into my dad. I knew it. And I gave him a hug and I said, Dad, I don't know what that was, but I know you felt it too. You take all that love and light in your core with you. And again, those weren't words I regularly used. It just occurred to me or happened. It's just how I felt. You take all that love and light in your core with you and leave the old news behind. I know we will see each other again. And I love you. And in that moment, I just felt at such peace. And I knew we were eternally bonded. How could I know that? I don't know. It's just, it became an internal truth. I didn't have any context for what that would mean. I just knew that it was true. And I was actually, in a way, joyful. That sounds so weird, but I was. And he passed away 12 hours later after that. But my experience, my initial experience, as a two-part experience, didn't just end with that transcendent moment. Because as I went to a park hours after he passed just to decompress, and I finally let some tears go, mostly from emotional exhaustion more than grief. I really grieved for the year of anticipatory grief before my dad passed, but I was exhausted. And as I was letting those tears go, I heard his actual voice in my mind, and it said, Ambi, get out of the car. You've cried enough tears over me in your life. In his actual voice. Of course, I thought I was just making that up, but I did think that's weird. Yes, I have cried enough tears over my dad in my life. And so I just listened and got out of the car. And I started walking and I said to myself, gee, Dad, I hope you're all right. And instantly, without hesitation, I heard again in his own voice back, I'm just fine, Amby. I'm going to stick around here a while and help some people. And I'm happy about it. And when I heard that, I stopped walking because I would not have said that. Amber making up something that my dad would say would have said, heaven's so beautiful, and I'm seeing my dogs again, and I'm with my parents. I would have never said, I'm going to stick around here a while and help some people, and I'm happy about it. And my next thought was, who would he be helping? I had no idea that I was about to embark on a journey with my dad in this next year, and continues now, of healing, him guiding me to discover who we really are and our greater reality. And I know that this is an abnormal experience, but it's because I was meant to be doing what I am now, meant to be having this conversation with you, meant to be sharing with your lovely listeners about how they can understand how their loved ones communicate with them, and meant to be an evidential medium. And that is sacred work. It's not just about proving someone is here. It's healing. It's about healing and joy and growing and understanding who and what we really are.
Wow.
That was a
I
lot.
was
I'm sorry.
absolutely riveted. Please do not be sorry. I was absolutely riveted to every word you were saying. And I swear to God, when you said that your dad said, Amby, get out of the car, I got goosebumps on my arms immediately. I've heard one other shared death experience, and I had her on my show. I'll actually link that up here if you guys are interested in hearing more of the shared death experiences, because I think they are fascinating. And when you said to your dad in your mind, who are you going to be helping? Did he answer that?
No, no, he didn't. But that's okay, because it was a part of the journey of discovery. And actually, if you don't mind, I would love to share the next little experience because I think it's relevant to your question.
Heck, heck
I
to the yes. Yes.
I needed to discover that I was worthy of being helped.
Mm,
And I let's like let that sink in, and for all of us, because I think most of us at some level in the human form struggle with our sense of worth. And that's different to me than self esteem. Self esteem to me is I know these things that I appreciate about myself, that I like about myself, that I think are positive qualities. Worth is I am worthy of love. I am worthy of being treated with respect. I am worthy of people providing for me, supporting me, helping me, even if in the moment I can't give that back. And really owning that, that's worth. And so as I embarked on this journey with my dad, I believe that's why he didn't answer that question. It was for me to discover my worth, and him helping me with little breadcrumbs to help me get there. Because my first thought was, he must be helping somebody else, and I would love to know who that is. Who is he helping? It didn't even occur to me that it was me. It didn't even occur to me. And that's so fascinating. And my mom. He was helping my mom too through me. He helped our relationship secondarily, which is so fascinating. It could be a whole nother discussion in and of itself. We have a much better relationship now today because of him,
mm,
because of the forgiveness, because of what has happened. It's just beautiful. And we are worthy. We are worthy of the everyday miracles in our lives, big and small. And
mm,
all of us can experience those.
I agree. What's interesting when you were talking about him and how he said to you, Amby, you have cried enough tears over me in your lifetime. Do you know so I have clear cognizance. I call it clear knowing, right? For those of you who don't know what that is. I just sometimes will hear something or I'll just know something. And I immediately got that knowing feeling. When your dad said that to me, what resonated with me was he had the life review already. He knew every single moment, every single time that you had cried any tears over him. He was completely and utterly aware because he was in a spirit form now. They have a
Absolutely.
life review. Time is different on the other side. So even though he had just died to you, to him, it wouldn't have felt that way because it's just different over there. Does that
Yeah.
resonate with you?
It absolutely does. Not only did I learn this because he began to share with me situations where he then understood what I was experiencing and would give me that apology and then give me evidence because I'd start to ask if this is I mean I was looking for every reason possible that my brain was inventing this and somehow I'm just trying to make all these connections. I was looking for those reasons for months. And I would ask him if this is really real, if I really had this experience, give me evidence. And I would get mind blowing evidence as one quick example. And then going back to your point, he once shared with me, I suddenly felt his presence and I was in the middle of working. And he shared, call your mom right now. She's sad and eating pudding. I haven't seen my mom eat pudding since I was a kid. I called her, picked up the phone, and yes, she was eating pudding and having a severe moment of grief. She was
I'm
frustrated.
surprised she answered your call.
Yeah, she was frustrated about things happening in the house. And what a beautiful moment. And that was like okay, this is so real and I have to believe this. But what is important here is that our loved ones, when they cross, and I experienced this in mediumship sessions that I now offer years after and working through this journey, loved ones offer to their loved ones still here on earth apologies and understanding of what they now understand about a difficult situation, or they'll share why they behaved a certain way. I'll give you an example only because it just happened in the last few days for me. A mother in spirit showed me that her daughter, who was my client in a session, uh, did dance when she was little, but that this carried on through all of high school and so on and so forth. And the mom shared with me that she treated this frivolously, that she liked seeing her daughter and liked watching her, but she didn't really take it seriously. And her daughter very much did and was talented. And the mother shared with me this beautiful woman here now has some perfectionism issues, and this is the root. And I'm so sorry. And then she explained it wasn't that I didn't really value or see your talent. I just didn't in my time frame and all of that. I just didn't see it as this serious thing and have the right conversations with you. And that was absolutely true. And it resonated so deeply with her daughter in this session. And she needed to hear that. She needed to hear her mom acknowledge that. And that's something lighter. And then there are very deep situations. But to me, because, and once again, I might even say some of the really hard moments with my dad and all of the emotions that I have felt over the course of a lifetime have led me to being able to be a nice conduit of healing for people because I understand. One, I've had really tough experiences, and two, the experiences with my dad have helped me get a glimpse of how this works. And they absolutely see the stories in their spiritual perspective as it happened and can feel your emotions, can feel what you were feeling at that time, and then grow the perspective. Oh, I said this thing because I had this viewpoint in life, and that person had that viewpoint in life, and I see how this caused them harm. And they want to apologize. They want to apologize to you.
I love that. That I think the people that are listening, hearing this, if they really hear what you're saying, so many times it's our own misperceptions that get in the way and hold us back because of what we believe to be true that really isn't.
Yes. I have developed this whole new perspective on forgiveness. And I
So
would
tell us
divide it.
about that. Tell us what forgiveness is. I've always thought it's more about you than about somebody else, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So, what I have come to understand for myself is that when certain things happen to us that cause us great internal harm and emotional harm, we tell ourselves a story about ourselves because of that harm. So, as an easy example, maybe you were with someone in a relationship and they continue to, cheat on you and you continue to stick with them. And maybe the story is, I'm not worthy enough for them to change. And that's a story that then we tell ourselves. And it's hard to forgive because we can't let go of the story, because there's a weird subconscious part of us that is telling us that as a truth when it is absolutely not true. So to me, forgiveness is a choice that I'm no longer going to hold myself hostage because of this false story that I'm telling myself as a result of this person's actions. And what I discover in mediumship is that almost always the actions are because of a result of that person and their stuff. It actually has nothing to do with you. It's how they handle situations, their emotional maturity, their spiritual maturity, the way that they're perceiving something. It's never really about you. And so, why hold ourselves hostage to false beliefs because of someone else's harm? So, to me, it's a choice to move forward and let go of a false story.
I remember hearing years ago, Dr. Joe Dispenza was talking about thoughts that hold us back. And when we have a story that we replay in our minds over and over again, we actually release neurotransmitters and we release chemical mediators that hold us to that story because it's a dopamine response. It's some type of a response that reinforces that for us. But what I loved about what you said is if you can understand that there's a perception maybe in that story that you don't understand. And if you can let go with that forgiveness, and this is where the value of being able to have a session with somebody like you who can actually hear that. I think the biggest key and the easiest way to release that is hearing somebody say those words. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I didn't have an intention to do that to you. And oftentimes, for most people, whatever story it is that they're carrying around because somebody's already gone, because of the way that person just responds and shows up, they're never going to hear those words. So, how do we get to a place if somebody can't have a session like somebody with somebody like you, or the person that really needs the forgiveness aspect is never going to say those words to them? How do we get to the place where we can actually start to release that?
That's a great question. These types of conversations help because we have to build knowledge and new thoughts about these types of things. And we have to remind ourselves of the various possibilities. For that daughter in the example I provided, she went through life thinking that her mom didn't think that she was all that talented. And that might sound frivolous because it was just high school and the dance and that sort of thing. But that held for her subconsciously or underneath her emotions throughout life and caused her to feel not enough with her mom in various situations. We do have to really check ourselves and remind ourselves that we all have our own energy and background and reasons of thinking, and those conflict with other people's energy, background, and reasons for thinking. And so it would be completely normal to tell ourselves the stories, but we just it's not helpful to hold on to them and to consider them truth because we can't really know. And so for this mom to come in this session and say, you were so talented. I just wasn't taking it seriously and I was frivolous because you were young and I didn't see it in that way. It wasn't about her talent or lack thereof. It was how her mom was perceiving a hobby. And that is true so often in the way different people perceive something.
Will you share a little bit more about the journey that you took with your dad and what you learned and how you were able to get to this place and also uncover your mediumistic abilities?
Yeah, it was a two-part journey. The first was that part of healing. So, healing our relationship and him guiding me to discover who I really am, and growing perspectives, new perspectives on the nature of reality.
Hmm.
And I would add that it sounds like it's all sunshines and rainbows, but it was actually really difficult in many instances. I remember saying to my mom at one point, I wish I had this dad when I was here. And it caused me some grief. And I felt it's like I now know his soul. And I wanted this dad. But I don't say that in an insulting way. I loved my dad very much. But when we let go of who we think we are, our emotions, the stories we tell ourselves, our backgrounds, the things that have caused us to act in certain ways, when we let all that go and sit and get to know a more true nature part of ourselves in a way, that is the soul self. And so it wasn't me noticing that my dad was somehow now a better person. It was that I was getting to know his soul. And I found that so beautiful. And so it caused me some grief, but then he allowed me to get to know my soul. And that was a new experience for me because I think I've identified in some ways with whatever's going on up here. I have certain personality characteristics, and none of that's changed. I have my same values and my same morals and my same ethics. That's all the same. But yet I started to understand that's not really the whole of me. There's this other aspect to ourselves. And when it wells up, you don't know what to do with that, actually. It feels a little uncomfortable at times, but it's like the unreal, unnatural part of you kind of falling away. And what I think is to take away from this, because I understand I was given a gift of grace to help to get to know this, but yet I also had to work to know more of it. So it was this back and forth relationship. And we all can get to know our soul self. And we do that by learning how to be present and mindful, understanding how our emotions and backgrounds and all those things influence who we think we are,
Mhm.
and then really sitting and asking in silence, who am I? And continually doing that and letting the experience unfold for you as it's meant to. Because this stuff of who we really are and learning expanded consciousness, this isn't just for people who've had near death experiences and shared death experiences. Yes, I can be now a helper because I've been gifted this thing and I can now have an edge to support others. But it's all of us because it's our birthright. It's our birthright to know our worth in a divine way and to know who we really are.
Thank you. Thank you. You were
Mm.
speaking my language. Like the whole purpose of this channel is to wake people up to the power of their soul because we are so much more powerful than we understand. You said something that really piqued my curiosity, and that was you now understand some new perspectives on the nature of reality. So, care to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'll start it with this phrase. Our biology dictates how we experience the world. It doesn't mean that's all there is. We are limited to our biology in a way. And this was a part of that journey of understanding I am an aspect of nature, just like a tree, just like an animal. And yes, I have superior intellect in a way, but doesn't mean I have superior beingness. Everything has its own beingness, even the tree that seems so much less than us. The biology we have, the amount of cone receptors in our eyes that helps us perceive things in a certain way. Our biology is dictating what we're feeling, sensing, and experiencing in the world. And when simultaneously I'm starting to have what we would call extra perception, extra perceptions outside of traditional five senses, it's like I'm a little bit transcending biology. But we all can do that. All of us, to varying degrees. We all have our own soul path. My soul path was probably to be a medium in some way and serve in this way, just not until this time of my life, but I am sure I signed up for that. And so that's my path. It doesn't have to be everybody else's path, but it's a beautiful thing to walk through the world feeling more connected to your true self. It changes your life because you have a broader perspective around everything. You have less anxiety. You walk through the world with more peace. You have more joy. You start to feel a union with all of life. And couldn't we use a lot more of that right now in the world? It's like getting the mountaintop perspective, I like to call it. And you see everything below. It's not because you're better and you're above. You just have a little bit of a broadened understanding of what's going on here. And where I was before is that I was down in the muck. My emotions dictated how I was feeling today. If I had an extra busy day at work, now my next 2 days are down in the dumps. I had that argument over politics with the relative, and now I'm down in the dumps. And so these things that are all of us experience in our lives are dictating our reality, how we interact with the world. And when you start to get in touch with these other aspects of yourself, you transcend a lot of that in positive ways. Doesn't change who you are necessarily, doesn't always change your beliefs and values and all that, but you have a more perspective based on love, based on connection, based on peace, based on joy. And that changes everything that you do in life and how you interact with people, how you handle challenges. And it's our birthright, all of us, to get to know who we really are.
Powerful stuff. I completely agree with you. One of the things that you said that really resonated and struck me was you talking about how you were meant to be a medium and you were meant to be a medium like this time in life, not earlier. And you had also said that when you experienced your dad from this new perspective, like, why couldn't I have had my dad like this when he was here? But if you think about it, the reason he came to you was because of the imperfection he was in his relationship with you. That caused the ripple effect of him feeling like he needed to connect with you in spirit to show you these truths, to apologize. And because of all of that, you then could open up your ability to become a medium and to understand things on a level you couldn't have before. So it seems even the things that we sometimes say, I wish things were different, if we really looked at them from that mountaintop perspective, we would see that we set them up to actually serve us so that they were a little stepping stone to get to where we are, to doing something maybe bigger even than we could have imagined that we would be doing, like
Yeah,
what you're doing right now.
100%. And I really felt that from all these experiences and then reflecting backward in my life, a lot of I think my soul lesson for this life is around forgiveness.
Hmm.
What does that really mean? How does it affect me? Um, Absolutely. And if that is my soul lesson, I'm going to have to experience some tough stuff, right? You don't get to learn about forgiveness without really difficult moments and challenges. And so, yes, I think in many instances, our challenges are. I am all about authenticity and honesty. And I'm going to tell you, I struggle a little bit with the idea of we all knew exactly this horrible thing was going to happen to us. I do think there are instances of that, absolutely. And here I've talked to people one on one who've had near death experiences who got to experience their literal choosing of a horrible tragedy in their life. At the same time, from an empathetic viewpoint, I understand that I am not going to look a mom in the eye and say, that loss of your child was meant to happen. Because what a hard, I struggle with that very much. And I do think that we live in a world of duality. We live in a world where bad things happen, tragedies happen, things that aren't supposed to happen. School shootings, not supposed to happen to 6-year-olds. And I would caution that people feel somehow like this was some kind of karmic thing because they had to be punished and learn something from some. This is love. And I'm not going to pretend that I have every answer. I definitely feel certain truths because of my experiences, but I also have learned enough to know we are limited in our understanding of who we really are and what all of this is until we're really become that full spiritual being without these physical limitations. And so that's just important for me to say because
I'm
I'm with
glad
you.
you said that.
I'm
Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
but I also think sometimes awful things just happen by statistics, probability, also
Free
because of
will.
our collective consciousness,
Free will.
free will, and our collective consciousness. The more
Yeah.
we all can grow toward love, the less pain, tragedy, and instances that shouldn't happen, like violence, will occur. And I see that as a bit of your role, my role, probably all of you that are listening to this channel because you are wanting to explore these ideas. The more we can exemplify and talk about the importance of worth and love, the more people we bring to that, the less of the nonsensical tragedy and death there will be.
Mm, yeah. That's a great point. I like to say that as much knowledge as I feel like I've gathered in my spiritual journey, I always say I feel like there's more that I don't know than I do know because there are just things I think we are not meant to understand or can't comprehend from this human perspective that happens with whether we plan things or we don't plan things or people have free will that they unleash on us that we weren't expecting. It's who knows. But you do have some answers and you have connected to your dad. Do you have other people that you connect with that give you messages when you're doing readings aside from the passed away loved ones that belong to the person that you're reading?
Do you mean just in
Spirit team?
Oh, yeah, of course. Wow, did it take me a long time to believe that I was worthy of a spirit team?
Why? Why do you say that?
I don't know. I used to think miracles, I always believed in miracles, always. But I guess I always thought, well, I believe in them, but they're for other people, not me. And now I think, what who? Just the president, just this important person, just this celebrity. If not you, then who? If not you, then who? And I had to turn that back around on myself because for a while I felt, why did this happen to me? Uh, there's so much tragedy and people with great need in the world. And yes, I've had hard things, um, but I'm okay. I'm okay. I don't need this. Other people need this. And it's like my human self was trying to grant things to people based on worth. We all are equally worthy. And so when you get the sign, when you get a moment of transcendence and love, I have a little plant over here and it sits in a holder that says, let the love in, let the love in. And that was probably 4 to 5 months of my journey, was to stop feeling like this should be for someone else. Let the love in, because your loved ones love you, your spirit team loves you. And yes, they gave me a journey too, to show me they were really here to support me in my path.
So who on your spirit team do you connect with?
Great question. I don't necessarily know them all by names per se.
Uh-huh.
I don't have that experience. And I know lots of people might say, just because we're human, give me a name, because they like to refer people in that way. But I feel it more as just this ethereal team that kind of sits up here. So it's sometimes in my meditation, I can ask specific questions. And in the beginning, it was always my dad. And then again, him helping show me it's not just me. They may very well be people that I also have had experiences with in this life. Not necessarily, though, people from past lives, but they have showed me with evidence that they are here and that it is very much real, very much so.
Can you give us a couple of examples?
Sure, I will give you an example. Yes. I wrote a short, I wrote a story in a book called Life Reimagined: Women's Stories of Hope, Resilience, and Transformation. I didn't write that story. My spirit
Mm,
team wrote the story.
okay.
The story was due, let's just say, on a Friday morning. And I had been attempting to write this story. I wanted to share the experience with my dad. I had been attempting to write it for weeks on end, and I just was like struggling. I don't know why. Never able to get past the first paragraph. And I like writing, but I just was struggling. And I woke up. I was prepared to write them an email and say, I'm so sorry. I don't know what to do. I don't have this done. I woke up on that Thursday at 3 a.m. and I heard, go get ice cream. I'm not going to
Are you
argue.
sure it wasn't your stomach talking to you?
I went and got a bowl of ice cream. I think because it just woke me up. The cold on the inside of my body is like waking me up a little bit. And I felt we, and it was we, it wasn't my dad's presence. We are going to help you write. And I sat down in the corner and in my meditative state of presence. They gave me the image that I opened the book with, which is a falling leaf. And my dad passed in the fall. And it was like the Forrest Gump with the feather at the end of the movie floating through the air. And it was this idea of the leaf falling off of the tree through the air to the ground. And as it was doing that, I just heard nature's way open. And I understood. It's like then I got infused with this understanding of, I'm going to focus this story. A connecting theme is nature, because my dad passed in the fall, but it's also learning that the tree falls off the leaf and it's on the ground, but it still serves its purpose. It's going to work inside the earth to help new things grow, and so on and so forth. And so they gave me the ideas, and then I would write. It's like I understood how they were guiding me, and then I would just use my brain and write. And then I'd pause, and they'd give me the next theme of the next section of the story, and then I'd write. It was a team effort.
How long ultimately did it take you to write that article?
The 3,500 word story, an hour and a half.
After weeks of trying.
Weeks. I got
And
it all
how was it received?
extremely well. Extremely well. It's been published in numerous places besides that just book, including on Love What Matters. Yeah, it's a beautiful story.
When you go
I
back
can't
and
take credit for it.
with that,
And I can't take full credit for it. My
what was
grandmother is an author in spirit. She was an author in life and is in spirit. May it very well likely that she has supported me as a part of the spirit team in that writing journey? Probably.
absolutely. Yes. Do you feel when you go back and you read that story that there's a part of you that's, I didn't really write this when you read it again, or that's really good. I know I didn't fully write that.
Absolutely, because they gave me the framework and they gave me the big picture theme for each of the sections and gave me this beautiful connected throughout context of this falling leaf and relating that back to the experiences that I share in the story. So yes, I look at that all the time. It kind of makes me giggle because I do feel like I didn't really write that. I did.
I had the very same experience. I produced a body of art called Soul Heart Art. They were 400 paintings that I produced, and I would write the backstory and I would write a soul whisper. And it's years, like I started doing this in 2013. And when I go back and read them now, I'm like, they're still really good. And I'm like, I don't fully remember writing that. Like it's almost better than my ability to write
Yeah,
because it wasn't from me. It was from my spirit team that was helping me create that. I think that's amazing.
love that.
Okay, so you are an evidential medium. Will you explain to people what that means versus like a psychic medium? And I know they're similar.
Yeah, and I think they are similar. It's really just more the terminology, right? But I think when anyone enters a mediumship session, whether that's with someone that is using the label psychic medium or evidential medium, it doesn't really matter. The session and the experience that one has must come with evidence. So, not just messages, but evidence. And the evidence must and should be mostly accurate and specific.
Okay.
So, what I mean by that is, you know, the highest quality sessions discuss the person's personality. So it's almost this combination of factual information. Like their job was really focused on manual labor, or they were a mechanic, or they worked in a hospital setting. Even if I can't quite narrow down what their career was in the hospital, I know it was in a hospital. There's factual pieces, but then there's this other part where I'm really feeling the person's personality and their complex relationship dynamics, like in that example with the mom and daughter and the deal with perfection. And to me, that speaks to the specificity. It doesn't mean a mediumship connection isn't real if it's a little lighter. Once in a while, I experience connections that just feel a little bit more light, where instead of real deep into all of that personality and complex relationship dynamics, it's more of factual evidence with a little personality, the way they passed. And sometimes that's just how it goes, especially maybe if it's someone coming in to say hi and give a brief message, but the bulk of the connection is around something else. But the evidence is important. And yes, there will be some things that may not make sense because we are perceiving through space and time, but the majority of the evidence should be accurate and specific. And then the best is when we have what I call gold nuggets. And I got that term from someone else, but I love that term. Gold nuggets. They're like treasures that are so specific, it could not possibly have happened any other way than because there was real communication happening here.
Okay, you've got to give us a gold nugget that you have received either from you personally in your life or from a reading that you did.
Can I give two?
Yes, you can.
Only because we were sharing the story with the mom and her daughter throughout this podcast. I'll give her gold nugget. And I love this. I consider the mom's elaboration about all of her whys and all that to kind of be a gold nugget. But this is fun. At the end of our connection, she showed me a tabletop Christmas tree. And on that Christmas tree, I could get this fuzzy visual of a heart ornament. And I felt like I couldn't feel the why. So when that happens, I just say, your mom is showing me a tabletop Christmas tree with a heart ornament on it. You're going to have to help make sense of this for me. And she said, this last Christmas, for the first time, my husband and I decided not to do a whole Christmas tree. And we put up just a tabletop Christmas tree. And we had a special engraved ornament made in a heart shape because we both lost our dads this year. And so we put their names on the back and we just had that one ornament on the tree. And I started laughing for two reasons. One, because mom was feeling left out. She wanted a heart ornament on that tree. That was number one. And number two, I had bought her the day before a heart ornament.
No way. That's like the icing on the cake of that story.
So it sounds too good to be true. And it started with my dad, but it's the most beautiful thing. And again, I have to turn to my plant and say, Amber, just let the love in.
I
Okay,
love it.
let the love in. This started with my dad. So when I offer mediumship sessions to people, 90% of the time, I get nudged to a gift in advance of the
Hmm.
reading. Once in a while, it doesn't happen in advance and something comes out in this session or there's an extra synchronicity, and then I know what this person wants to send them, like flowers, fresh flowers. But most of the time, I get nudged to things in advance and they're the perfect thing for this session. And they're gifts from heaven. Like, how can this be real? But one day in this journey with my dad, actually, I have it here. I was having my morning meditation and I just heard the name of a store in my town. That's all I heard, just the store name. I haven't been to there in 4 years. So I went to the store and it's like a little consignment shop. They just have lots of little knickknacks and gifts and random items, art, little things. And I walked into the store knowing for some reason I was supposed to be there, but I had no idea why. And like a crazy person, I went in the corner and closed my eyes and just said, why am I here? And I opened my eyes, and I kid you not, I'm going to show it to you. The only thing my eyes were focused on was on the wall. Ask your dad. I started laughing out loud in the store. Ask your dad. So I thought, okay, what have I got to lose at this point? I'm going to ask dad. So I did in my heart space in the corner of the store. And I didn't hear a voice back. I just felt, you're going to buy gifts for people with my help. And it was a lesson. It was a lesson in noticing how I'm guided to things in the moment, not just when I'm sitting in a meditation. So I started with a person. I started with a cousin of mine. And he guided me, not because he told me, it was just like feeling drawn to things, feeling a nudge towards something. And it was a little succulent pot plant holder that had a little heart on it. So I just am thinking to myself, well, I'm just going to, I don't know, this is going to be an experiment. I'm just going to send the gifts to people. I won't even tell them why. And we'll just see if it fits, if it somehow really makes a lot of sense. So I bought that succulent plant, bought these other things. And then I said, okay, Dad, it's time for mom. What should I gift mom? And I'm looking and I get drawn and I see this little holder of, what do you call them? Spatulas. Now, I don't know about you, but if my husband gifted me a spatula, like that is the last thing that my brain would decide to gift my mom. But I felt drawn to it. So I went over to it, I picked it up. Oh, I keep these things in a little pot holder because they make me laugh. I picked it up, it was very plain, and then I turned it over and it says, "No soup for you" from Seinfeld. It made me laugh because my dad really loves Seinfeld. But that's not the reason why you would buy it for my mom, but I really felt drawn to it, so I bought it. When I gifted this to her, she opened it and started laughing hysterically. And she said, do you know that a month before your dad died, he took out all the spatulas in my drawer, took a picture of them, which then she showed me, and said, why do you have so many spatulas? And he was teasing her and joking with her that she has 10 of the same type of spatula. Why do you have so many? So the fact that he was sending her this in a moment that I didn't even know about that they exchanged. She shared with me the picture that he took. It was just such a beautiful moment. And that's another thing. Our loved ones want us to laugh. It's not just about seriousness and apologies, it's also about joy and fun. They maintain their jokes and their humor. And so it was such an evidential way to show my mom that he was still here, wanting her to laugh through grief. My cousin, who I bought that little succulent pot for, she had said to me, it's so funny. I've just been getting into succulents lately, and I have this little tiny miniature cactus, and I've been looking for a little miniature succulent pot that I couldn't find. And here you've sent me the perfect size pot for my mini cactus. And again, it helped me understand this is real and how beautiful to be nudged to gifts for people from heaven.
I love that. Thank you for sharing those. Those are amazing. All right, before we get into how people can find and connect with you, I've been noticing your beautiful butterfly earrings. Tell
Oh,
me why tell me why you wore those today.
I felt nudged to them. That's really just
So
why.
you know what's going to happen. I think that this is how things work. Somebody is going to watch this and it's about signs and synchronicities and connection and they're going to see that and realize it's a message from one of their passed away loved ones.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, probably just letting you know all is well.
All
Open
is
your heart that
well.
all is well. Yeah.
All is well. Amber, if people want to connect with you, how can they do that?
I always love to build community on social media because it's nice to not only share, but also hear from other people and what their experiences are. So you can find me on Facebook at Nature's Way Open, YouTube as well at Nature's Way Open, Instagram as well at Nature's Way Open, or on my website at www.natureswayopen.com.
What do you put on your YouTube channel? I'm curious.
Well, it's still a work in progress, but I sometimes share with permission from clients beautiful stories of mediumship connections, especially ones that have lessons for all of us, because that's really important. It's not about it's not about showcasing, oh, look at this and how amazing this was. It's more, do you see how our loved ones want to help us? And if you are really struggling with deep grief, this video is for you. That's the point of those. Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful. Wow. I so loved our conversation. These conversations truly feed my soul. And it's not very often that I get to talk to somebody whose life is all around signs and synchronicities the way that mine is. So I feel like your confirmations confirm my signs, and hopefully my signs confirm other signs as well, because I just think that's how we're all connected. But thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you for so much. I'm sorry for the loss of your dad, but I'm so happy for the way that he's connected. And I think it's a great reminder to everybody watching that no matter what, your passed away loved ones hear every single word that you speak to them. They love you. They know what you're doing. You are never bothering them, and they never leave you.
And there's no judgment.
I love that too.
No judgment. Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much for the time.
yeah,
Thank you for the opportunity to connect with you and your listeners. And like you, I just love it, feeds my soul having these conversations.
it
So,
really does. It really does. And thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Next up, check out this playlist of other NDE interviews. Please like and subscribe. It really helps this channel to grow so I can bring you more content. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here.